Okay, well, welcome everyone and good morning. Welcome to Coffee Conversations. We have a very special, and I think I say that every time because I really feel these coffee conversations are so special. But today, really with everything that's going on in the world, this really hits home. And today, coffee conversation is going to be celebrating Homes for Our Troops and what the roofing industry has been doing to help our veterans and our troops to have in their time of need. So today I am very, very excited to welcome Brigadier General USA retired Tom Landremeyer, President and CEO of Home for Our Troops. Tom, thank you for being on the show and welcome.
Thanks very much, Heidi. Really great to be here and appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk about Homes for Our Troops.
I am so looking forward to this, and there's a lot of people who are. So before we get started, I do want to thank our sponsor, ABC Supply, and we're going to talk about them quite a bit today. They have been a huge proponent, advocate, contributor to Home for Our Troops, and also for many other charities out there. I have to tell you, they're working every single day within their communities, within all the branches, but Homes for Our Troops is really one of their one very special charities, and they work every day with it. We'll hear more about that, but they are our sponsor today too. And I want to thank them. You can find more information about what ABC Supply is doing on their website. You'll find all kinds of information about Home for Our Troops there, but you're going to hear a lot about it today. So before we get started and dive right in, I do want to remind everybody that this is being recorded. And so it will be available on demand for you to share out to all of your friends and neighbors. And really today, we want to celebrate what the roofing industry is doing for veterans, what they're doing for our troops to help. So once Tom and I are going to visit a little bit, he's going to share the story. And then I would love to have all of you please ask questions, share your stories, whether you are a veteran or whether you are helping veterans in your community. We want to hear what you're doing. So this is a caught doing good, and we're going to talk about that right now. So here we go. As I said, Tom Landremeyer is a Brigadier General, USA, and he's also the President and CEO of Homes for Our Troops. Tom, could you maybe introduce yourself a little bit and tell us a little bit about your career and then Homes for Our Troops?
Sure, I'd be glad to, Heidi. Again, I'd like to give a shout out to ABC Supply as well, and I think I'm pretty well co-branded here with a little bit of ABC Supply on the sleeve and the H-spot on the chest. So love those guys all across the country. They really help us out. So I was born and raised in Dallas, Texas. And when it came time for college, wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I ended up going to West Point. I graduated West Point in 1976, went into the Army, started out as an armor officer. That's a guy working with tanks. I did that for about 5 years and became a helicopter pilot. I believe everything happens for a reason. And while I was down at Fort Rucker, Alabama, going through flight school, I met my future wife, who was going to Auburn University at the time. And since then, we've been married for over 40 years now. We got 4 full-grown kids all doing their thing. Had assignments from Korea to Japan, Hawaii, all across the United States, into Europe, Bosnia, Iraq, Kuwait. So a lot of the normal assignments for an Army guy. And I finished up in 2009 and retired as a Brigadier General, working in the Pentagon. Really wanted to get into the nonprofit sector. Spent a couple of years as a civilian in the Pentagon, trying to cross over, and finally got hired with the Armed Services YMCA for about 5 years as their COO. And then in January 17, really got lucky enough to be selected to be President and CEO of Homes for Our Troops. And so I've been doing this job for a little over 5 years. When I was looking to see whether I wanted to actually throw my hat in the ring for this position, I went to the Homes for Our Troops website. And if people want to go there, it's of course I'm really prejudiced about it, and I think it's a pretty good website, but it's extremely informative. You can find out anything that you need regarding our organization. How to donate is always one of the big ones for us, but how to get involved with us. You can see where we're building, but one of the most important pieces we have on there is a page that lists every single veteran that we've either built for or we're building for. And they're in alphabetical order. And I went to that when I was looking, because I checked the financials. They were good. The board I had known or worked for about half the board anyway. The leadership was good. The executive director, my number 2 here, is a close friend of mine that we've known each other since our very first assignment in Hawaii together. So now over 45 years. So I thought everything was solid, and I got to this page that had this list of veterans on it, hundreds. And I started clicking on them because each one of them had a link to their page, and it gave their bio, a little bit about their story, but it had videos. And I started watching these videos, and they're extremely powerful. The videos are only 3 to 4 minutes long. The veteran and the spouse or the caregiver that may have attended their conference with them when they did these videos before moving into their home. So you get to hear a little bit about their story, a little bit about their background, what they did in the service, injuries, and then the challenges they have when they move back home, when they come back home out of the hospital, the challenges that they have living in a regular home, and what they're really looking forward to into their HVAC home when they move in. And I started watching these things. I just watched one after the other, and I was writing down words that were, resonating with me, that the veterans and the spouses were using. And I was doing this at home, and my wife happened to be going back and forth behind me. And she finally said, "Do you just keep watching the same thing over and over again?" Because the look and feel, same company has been doing these videos for us for going on 8 years now, a company called Reliant out of Nebraska. A very professional video, but they have the same look and feel, kind of the background, the lighting, the chair colors. So if you didn't stop, you would think maybe you were watching the same thing over and over again. And I said, "No, sit down with me for a second and watch one of these." And she said, no, I got some. I said, "No, just one. I'll just ask you to watch one." And she, heavy sigh, sat down beside me, and I just hit replay on the one I just finished watching. And since I had seen it, I sat back, and my attention was really on her to see how she was taking it. And as it played, she started to lean forward, and then her head cocked a little bit, and then her hands came up. And when we got done, I looked over at her and said, "Well, what do you think?" And she said, "Play another one." And I put my finger in my mouth, hooked kind of thing. And I said, exactly. And she said, "If you don't compete for this position, you're nuts." And so, threw my hat in the ring, and a few months later, had a position and haven't looked back. It's just a tremendous organization. We build specially adapted custom homes across the country, and then we donate them to the most severely injured post 9/11 veterans to enable them to rebuild their lives. We've been around since 2004. Our founder was a general contractor up here in the Taunton, Massachusetts area. We're about 40 miles south of Boston. That's where our headquarters is. And he saw all the wounded and injured coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan in the 03-04 timeframe, and thought that he could build a home that would make it easier on them. And he went to see a young Army Guardsman by the name of Sergeant Pete Damon over in Middleborough, Mass. Told Pete he could do this, and like most troops will tell you, "No, I'm okay. There's other people need that. I can't accept that." And he kept going back to him, and Pete finally told him, "I'll do it on one condition, and that I'm not the last. You keep doing it for others." And just like that, we had a mission and a vision. Haven't looked back. Pete's home went on the ground. He's still in it over in Middleborough, but it went on the ground in 2005. Since then, we've built 330 specially adapted custom homes in 42 states across the country. We've got 76 projects currently underway, another 100 plus veterans in the application process of our program. And on top of all those numbers, there's still 1,000 more of these severely injured veterans out there that could qualify for our home. We put 20 to 25 on the ground a year. you can do the quick math and know we got a lot of work to do and we need all the help we can get.
Wow. Wow. So first of all, Tom, I'm a little teary after all of that. So thank you so much for sharing that. It's so important. And, you and I had talked before, and we have some other questions here, but we have some people who are already chatting and who want to share and talk to you about this. So we're going to bring a couple people on just to kind of share their story with you and ask you some questions and kind of talk about habits, because ideally we want to get everybody involved and we want everybody helping so we can get those thousands of people out there. So I am just really excited to welcome Elizabeth Evans to come in here.
Well.
You do? Okay, very good. Elizabeth, I think you're coming on here in just a minute. Yes, hello, welcome back. It's so great to see you.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing there, lady?
I'm doing well, General. It is fantastic to see you. I was just talking with Bill Ivey a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, are you building in Nashville yet? We have a veteran that wants to move to Nashville. And I said, 2023, absolutely. Definitely looking forward to it.
I love it. Elizabeth, for those who are on who may not know you from the last time you were on Coffee Conversations, can you just introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about your background? And then let's talk about how you can encourage other people to get involved with Tom and Homes for Our Troops.
Absolutely. So I'm really fortunate to be with you guys again. Similar to the General, I didn't know what life had in store for me for college. So I ended up at West Point as well, playing tennis. And through that, found out that I had a love for construction, majored in civil engineering, and worked for several different companies when I transitioned from the active Army in 2005 to the Florida National Guard. And really with Hurricane Irma and the devastating impact there, said, wow, I really want to help people in their most time of need recover after massive storms. And so I started Elizabeth Evans Custom Homes and E2 Roofing. And 5 years later, here we are building homes. In fact, every home I have built to date has been purchased by a veteran. 2 West Point graduates, Homes for Our Troops house, and now we have another home coming out of the ground with a veteran looking at it as well. So we did Jared Addison's home in Jacksonville, Florida in 2020. He was a military police soldier that was injured. And so there were over 70 adaptive features in the home that the designers with Homes for Our Troops had incorporated. ABC, just like mentioned previously, donated the materials. So we used Certainteed for their roofing system. Absolute pleasure to work with. There's several other vendors that they work with that donate materials. We do 2 volunteer days where volunteers within the community come out and help. They sign their name on a 2x4 that's installed within the home. So that is always part of Jared and his family's home. And then they come out for the landscaping day. And it's just a great community effort that goes in, and it's so different than other organizations because Homes for Our Troops asks the veteran, where do you want to live? And so it's not, hey, we're going to build you this home and this is where it's going to be built. They really are interested in the veteran wanting to get back engaged with their community. And so, like I said before, I can't say enough great things about Homes for Our Troops, and I'm really excited for other roofers to get partnered and involved with their work.
That is awesome. General, how important is it to have someone like Elizabeth and the contractors who are out there across the country helping?
Oh, well, we couldn't do it without them. But as Elizabeth said, and she's a wonderful ambassador for us and has only built 1 home for us out of those 330. But you can see how the mission affects people. And it really hits hard for those, particularly that have served. But there's a lot of people out there that have, never served, that still have a heart for this mission that we do. And that's what makes doing it such a joy. But having builders like Elizabeth, we don't find them like her around the country that often. We have good builders, but we have just a few that are really repeat builders where we've built before and we go back in, and that were so good that we always talk about them when we're going around the country. When I'm giving talks and stuff, their names come up. Elizabeth's name is one of those that comes up. She's not our builder down in South Texas. It's South Central Texas has built over 10 homes for us. She's not our builder out in Southern California that's built 30 homes for us in the Southern California area. But doggone it, she's our builder that when we were having a hard time finding one in Jacksonville, Florida, stepped up to the plate, knocked it out of the park, built a tremendous home that is a standard by any measure, and did it in very short order, a lot quicker than we have a lot of our homes done. And if we could clone her and put her all over the country, that's exactly what we would do.
That is awesome. So I'm thinking there's probably some contractors out there right now. I know there's a lot of them who are listening, and maybe they don't do, a lot of the roofing contractors only do roofing, or maybe they're siding, the exteriors. How do they get involved if they're not in the full build of building a house?
So as Elizabeth said, we ask our veterans where they want to live. Then they tell us, we go out and try and find the property. They help us. We give them back the envelope planning criteria. They help us find property. Once we find something we think we can build on, because it's got to be relatively flat and about an acre or more to properly site our home, then we'll bounce it off them to make sure that's exactly where they want to be. And then we'll buy it, find the custom building area and build them the home from the ground up. The custom builder comes with all their subs. So one thing I would say to the roofers out there is getting on our website, and we've got right there where you see all the veterans listed as well. There's a map that shows where all of our projects have been and all the ones that are currently in progress. And if we got some in their area, they can click on those, find out whether they can contact us. We can put them in touch with the builder if he's just getting started and maybe he doesn't have a roofer that he needs somebody else. They might be able to get involved that way. I've also seen around the country where, God bless them, the roofers are doing all sorts of different fundraisers and things just to give back to their local community. You might wind up in a location where we are building, but the builder already has everything lined up and really doesn't need an additional sub. But you can still do things to help fundraise for that particular build and help the community. The thing that Elizabeth mentioned, and again, I say she's a wonderful ambassador because she knows all about us. But the volunteer days, these troops are going to be rehabbing and recovering for the rest of their lives. A lot of people think, okay, they've lost a limb or they lost eyesight or something, and then it's done. Now they move on. Yeah, they're moving on, but a lot of other things are wrong with their bodies, internally and externally, and it changes over time. If you were to visit some of these troops' homes with prosthetics, you'd probably find a box in the garage that is full of extra arms or legs because things change all the time. They're going to be rehabbing and recovering for the rest of their lives. They know the hand they're dealt. They're not looking backwards, they're looking forwards. But it will take the entire community to help them rebuild their lives completely. And so one of the things we always tell everybody when we go out on these visits is, hey, it takes the community. The first and most important thing you can do to help us is wrap your arms around this veteran that asked to live in your community. They could have lived anywhere they wanted to. We're building a home up in Alaska. We're building one up in Maine. We built them from Florida to Washington, from California, and just about in Maine. We got a new one going in western Nebraska. We got another one that we just purchased land for in Wyoming. We're building all over this country. So they could have lived anywhere, but they chose to live in a particular community. So, roofers that are out there in these communities where they're living can still get involved and fundraise. And even if you don't have one that's in your specific area and you want to do something to help us, I don't know how many roofs a particular company may put on during a year, but say you decided to donate a particular amount for every roof you did into Homes for Our Troops. Wonderful. Absolutely awesome. Fantastic. Because it doesn't matter if it's $5 or $500,000. Every bit of it helps us do what we need to do.
That is great. Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming on and sharing that. And as always, thank you for your service. You are an inspiration to the roofing industry. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much. we actually, go ahead, sorry.
No, I just wanted to tell Elizabeth thanks and an inspiration not only to the roofing industry, but an inspiration to veterans, an inspiration to young ladies everywhere. If you got daughters out there, look to that lady right there if you want an example of what to be.
Yes.
General, thank you so much. It's so great to see you, and I look forward to 2023 in Nashville with your team.
Awesome. And we'll be reporting on that too. I want a story. I want pictures. So
let's do it. I'm all in.
I love it.
Sounds great.
I love it. And we actually have another veteran who wait, I'm thinking, yes, no, I'm not sure. Roger, we'd love to have you come on. I know you said Roger Nixon is out there, and I'm reading your comments. You've been very supportive. You're doing tons with veterans. I'm not sure if you're a veteran, but maybe you can come on and tell us. So Megan will be bringing him on here in just a second. So while Roger's coming on, oh, there we go. And while his audio is coming through in his video, I do want to say that Mandy McIntyre also on the line, and you'll see these in the chats, but she just wanted to point out that she loves this topic and she loves that it's being highlighted. So Mandy, she's a huge supporter. Thank you so much. Roger, thank you for joining us this morning.
Great to be here, Heidi. Thank you. First and foremost, thanks for all you do. And on behalf of Adam Oakes, our CEO at Estimating Edge, and Mike Odie at Foundation Software, Tom, we appreciate what you're doing for our troops. I'm especially very passionate about what you do. Cameron West is a friend of mine from North Georgia.
Okay.
He's a little bit younger than me. He and I served in a little small unit there called the Order of Colombo, which is not for the weak, if you will, but pretty close to Cameron. And you guys are doing some amazing things. I, like yourself and Elizabeth, just, very passionate about it. Lost too many friends over the past 10 years, whether it's combat, suicide, and every little thing you're doing makes a tremendous impact on that one veteran. And I echo your statements. We're not special people, okay? Veterans, and yes, I was former enlisted and a commissioned officer. But just the fact that Tom, you and your team there at Home for Troops are leading the way, and you got people like Elizabeth and these other companies that are supporting veteran initiatives. And specifically people like Cameron, who's on your board. These men and women, and I say and women because it's all, come back from an environment that's very challenging, and they're thrown back into a society that expects certain things. And when you live a lifestyle for a year or two that's not normal, you're going to have changes. And people, with what Tom's doing, is helping them get acclimated back to home. And I've spent the past several years previously doing a lot of transition training for veterans. Was very fortunate to get USAA to sponsor a program that I travel around the United States and overseas, helping veterans transition, find their next career opportunity. But I am where I am today because of a veteran, and that's Adam Oakes, classmate of mine from North Georgia. West Point's a great institution, by the way, so hats off to you, Tom and Elizabeth. We're down here in the mountains of North Georgia, a little bit different, but just want to show my appreciation. And if there's anything that I can ever do to assist you guys on any front as it relates to supporting your mission, you call me. Tom, I just sent you a LinkedIn request. Elizabeth, feel free to look me up. But all that being said, I see we got some contacts in Jimmy Blackman and Ray Chandler and Babs Chase, Scott Rutter in common there. So those are some folks I know fairly decent. But anyways, thanks for what you do. I'm proud to say that our organization at Estimating Edge currently has probably about 10% of our workforce are veterans. And that's a direct result of the leadership that Adam Oakes at Estimating Edge and Mike Odie at Foundation Software has made an emphasis. So I'd be remiss in saying that if there's any veterans out there looking for opportunities, feel free to look us up. I want to make this about us because it's not, but I want to end on the note that, you know, there's no greater love than a man or woman that would lay down his life for another person. And if we have an opportunity to support initiatives like Tom's leading here, we all need to be on deck. Anyways, that's it. Thanks.
Roger, first of all, I knew you were a veteran. I just couldn't see your full name. So thank you. I know Estimating Edge is doing so much. Thank you for your service and for your comments. Tom, I think this is an important thing too, that this is not just contractors. This is, as we know, ABC Supply with distributors, manufacturers, technology companies like Estimating Edge, who is doing so much. So that I think what we hear all the time is this entire industry wants to be there to support and to help on some level. So I think what you had said before, but there's so many different ways, right?
There are tons of ways. I just like to thank Roger personally for standing up back in the day, raising your right hand and volunteering to come on board with everybody. It has been a tough 20 or so years since 9/11 in the services, and we have all lost a lot of good men and women, both to the enemy and then internally after they came back and some of the things that they've been dealing with. Roger, a couple of the names that you mentioned, particularly Jimmy Blackman, really put a smile on my face. Good man from North Georgia. And I stay in contact with him. He's worked for me previously as a lieutenant, and I was very proud to watch him go on and on as all the way up to a brigade commander of Aviation Brigade deployed and everything. So again, thank you for all that you have done for our country and all that you continue to do, both in the community and in support of veterans. But it really is, they're just, the ways to become involved and who all really is involved are just limitless. We've got a few ladies in an independent fundraising shop here that if somebody called us and they had a passion for something, these ladies will work with them on ideas on how to turn it into a fundraiser. And it doesn't matter. We've had things like grade school kids out in California that, you know, bring in their allowance for a month or something and donate it, and we get a check for $120 from kids. We've had kids in the Dallas-Fort Worth area going to school for the entire year, and they just bring in their loose change whenever they have loose change around the home. In the last couple of years, we've gotten over a couple $1,000s from those kids. So much that we wanted to go down there and spend some time with them at their school and say thanks, and had one of our veterans as well. Another one that Roger brought up, Cam West, allows me to talk about another thing with our organization. Is we have something called the Veterans Action and Advisory Team. And it's a group of about 10 or so home recipients and spouses. And they're in our organization really twofold. There's a leader of it, Cam's the leader of it, and the head of the VAT, as we call it, actually sits on our national board and is a voting member. And so we have a veteran that's in a home that's on our national board carrying a vote that can provide feedback direct to our board on things that are going on. But more importantly, here at the headquarters, we've got, today we've got about 64 people that work in our organization, but there's only a handful of us that are veterans. There's only 4 of us that are combat veterans. So we can talk to our 400 plus veterans in our family, you know, combat veteran to combat veteran, but none of us can talk to them severely injured veteran to severely injured veteran. The men and women on our VAT can talk to them that way. So it turns into a peer mentoring group as well. And if we, another unique thing about us is we stay in contact with all of our veterans after we give them the keys. So we monitor, and the VAT helps us stay in contact. They've got a call list that they execute every single year to maintain contact with all of our veterans to see how they're doing. because I mentioned about them continuing to rehab and recover for the rest of their lives, they're going to accomplish some tremendous things, and we want to be there to celebrate with them. But they're also going to have some challenges. These guys and gals will continue to run up against roadblocks and have some dark times in their lives, and we want to be there to help them out. And sometimes it just needs another call and a conversation or a visit from another veteran that has gone through the exact same kinds of things to help them through that darkness and get the light back on. And these guys are there to get on the phone or get on a plane or drive over to see somebody if they need to, because they cover the entire country and help these veterans out. So it's just another thing. But right now, Cam West is the head of our VAT, and he's a great, wonderful, compassionate human being that a couple years back when South Texas and Houston had the big hurricane that came in, Hurricane Harvey, I think it was, that came in and flooded every place. He was one of the first ones to hook up his boat, throw a bunch of supplies and everything in it, and drive all the way across to Texas and go out there and help rescue people and help them out. And that's the kind of people that are veterans. That's the kind of people that are out in our communities. And these guys and gals, I just don't think we can do enough for.
Wow. Wow. The comments that are coming through for all of you, it's just, it's just amazing. So there is a huge amount of support. First of all, I want to say, Roger, thank you again for your service. And I think we should be talking about how maybe we can be putting something together to help, maybe some kind of program that out there. So it's
Awesome.
with the estimating edge leading to, so because
Right.
ABC Supply is already doing it. So they're just bringing us all on board here.
Tom, nice to meet you, sir. Appreciate you. Keep up the great work.
Thanks very much, Roger. You take care of yourself.
Yes, sir.
What I am hearing or seeing out here in the comments, just so you know, is a huge outpouring of support of how do we get involved. And so what you've answered that already, how to get involved. Elizabeth has put in her email out there to help other people if they have questions on how to get involved in their communities. But there was one comment that I also think is really great, and that is Wendy Marvin. And I don't know if Wendy wants to come on or not, but she did say, how do we share this mission with our builders to bring more people to the table? Wendy is the owner of Matrix Roofing, but she also she's also a general contractor, and she works with a lot of builders too. So is there what's the process for builders to apply and get involved?
Well, the biggest thing is once we go into an area and we have land and we've got a set of plans that we can then provide a builder so that they can make a bid on it, we'll be looking for custom home builders in the area. We went through a period of time when we actually did something akin to Habitat for Humanity, in that we had a bunch of volunteers come out and we had a builder that sort of oversaw that. But what we found in the end was a lot of our volunteers that showed up were like me. They showed up with a hammer and said, point me to the nails, I am ready to work. And we didn't necessarily have those technical and highly skilled experts that we needed in the plumbing, carpentry, electrical field, stuff like that. So we spent a whole lot of time and resources after the home was done going back in and fixing it. So we kind of got away from that, and we decided we'd hire a home builder. We also went through a period of time when we looked specifically for home builders that would donate their time back to us. Some would donate the subs as well. The subs were signed on. Others, maybe not all the subs participated, and some of them need to get paid and stuff. But we were looking for builders that would donate their time and effort back to us. But what we found on that was particularly builders that had multiple builds going on in a location. They might have 8 homes underway, and one of them isn't bringing anything really to the fight into their onto their table or being able to pay their subs and things like that. And the other 7 are. And we found that our home would get slid to the right. And when you're dealing with somebody that out of the goodness of their heart is giving you their time and energy, you can't really come down and pound on them about being quicker and make them go faster. But we felt we owed it to our veterans that, hey, once we start a home build, it ought to be a home build like anybody else is doing. And generally we're talking probably 8 to 10 months, depending on where you're at. And God always gets a vote with weather. Sometimes it can take a little longer. I remember a couple of years ago, we had a 6-month rainy period in Tennessee where we were building, and we couldn't put in a septic tank for 6 months. So we couldn't get it, just delayed the family getting into the home. But we really owe it to our veterans once we start to get them in short order. So we kind of went away from that too, and now we completely pay our contractors. So I would say the best thing is to stay on that build map that we have on our website to see where we're building. And we'll put a little house on there that's underway, a little red house on our map that says we're underway, but that's as soon as we bring the veteran into the program. So it'll take us a period of time to find land, to get our engineering done, to do the plans up before we're really after a contractor. So there will be time that you'll be able to see that, for instance, this home that is about to start in western Nebraska, we've had that little red block on there for probably close to a year. So there's a period of time on there when, as a builder, you can see that we might be building in your area or maybe within your 30 or 45-minute radius that you want to keep your builds within. And you could contact us and say, hey, I'm interested in helping you build this home. And we've got one person back in our shop that as soon as we look to build in an area, as soon as we get land, they're out there looking for builders. So we're on the look for it. But I think the best way would be to just keep an eye on our map, seeing if we're building an area, and then make contact with us. Say, hey, when this one gets ready to go, keep me in mind. I'd like to build for you.
That's excellent. And Elizabeth just put a note in too that it's really great. And she said, and you may already know this, but another great resource is the National Association of Home Builders. Their local chapters will be able to connect you with qualified builders and many of them are veterans. So that's it. Yeah, go ahead, Elizabeth.
One thing to add on that too, one of the certifications we have is called CAPS, C-A-P-S, and that is for aging in place. And so the National Association of Home Builders tracks who has that designation as well, because there's a lot of parallels between building for someone that is going to age in place, as well as building for someone that has a physical, emotional, or mental disability at the current time. So if you have even if you can find a builder that's part of their local chapter for NAHB. Like for us, it's the Northeast Florida Builders Association, NEFA. But I can also look and say, okay, these 6 builders in the Northeast Florida market have the CAPS designation. That's going to make it even easier to work with that builder, implementing all of those design features in the home because it's stuff that they're doing already.
Yeah, that's a great point, Elizabeth. I appreciate that. And matter of fact, going back to one of our sponsors in the past, Kohler, provided all of our fixtures and everything. And they used us as an age-in-place test bed for a lot of their products because essentially, as Elizabeth describes there, we are building an age-in-place home because we do want this to be the veterans' forever home. And a lot of the veterans that we're getting, back in 04, 05, early on in our existence, were all coming right out of the hospitals as soon as they were discharged and went back home and they were medically retired. And we got them because we were keeping in contact with the hospitals and letting them know who we are and what we did. Nowadays, it's all by word of mouth of veterans that are talking to buddies, running into somebody, because thank goodness, it's a good thing that we're not having all these veterans come back all blown up right now. You never can tell what may happen in the future. Certainly don't want that to happen, but we're having to do word of mouth. And a lot of these vets also, a lot of these guys and gals were really, Elizabeth, were really young when they were blown up. And number one, they thought they were invulnerable to begin with. They got blown up. They're still living it. Now they really think they're bulletproof. And you come back and tell them, hey, eventually you're going to need to be off your prosthetics. You're going to want to be in a home that's kind of built for you to make it easier for you when you come home and rest, no obstacles in it. And a lot of them are like, nah, I'm okay. I got this. I can move around fine. But they're 21, 22, 23, and 10 years down the road, they come back to us and say, hey, you know, things are starting to change a little bit. And it does kind of feel good when I come home, and I wish I was able to use my wheelchair in my home. But because the narrow hallway, I can only go one direction down the hallway. And if I want to go into one of the kids' rooms, the doors aren't wide enough, so I can't make that turn to get into the kids' room. So if I want to go in there to read them a story, I'm gonna have to hop out of the chair and drag myself across the floor and then go in the kids' room, or hop on what they call their good leg, the residual leg, which almost always has some kind of damage with it. So just lots of reasons. But no, the age in place thing is really a good point. Appreciate that, Elizabeth.
Absolutely. I'll drop a link in the chat so that way you can hand it off to whoever works that for you. Too easy,
Great.
General.
Super.
We'll get it out there. That's awesome. Elizabeth, thank you so much. I wanted to also, we have, I think it's really interesting what you're saying too, because from a contractor standpoint, what you're talking about, obviously ABC Supply does so much in their donations, Kohler, I've seen in the notes, GAF, Certainteed. So that is one of the other things that contractors can do, is to share this message. Talk to your manufacturers, talk to the folks out there who might be able to, I'm assuming donating materials is a good thing.
So most of the materials are donated, with the exception of lumber and concrete. We don't have any national partners for lumber and concrete. And I don't have to tell anybody that's sitting in on this call or podcast rather, that, you know, the prices of those have just been going up exponentially. Be great to have partners, but we've got corporate partners for basically everything else that goes into the home. So most of the times we're going to have that covered, but again, paying attention to where a build's going in. And then if we've already got a builder and there's a particular organization or something that wants to help, we'll put them in touch with that builder. And he may not, you know, it may be one of the things that we don't have a corporate partner for, and we need, or maybe we're getting it at cost, or maybe we're getting it, we're having trouble getting it because of supply chain issues. That's happening with several of our partners now. Right. And what we don't want to do is slow down the build of the home because we got a supply chain issue. So if we end up with something like that, what Homes for Our Troops is going to do is go down the street and write a check, because we're going to tell the builder, okay, have you got another place that you can get that from? Yeah, I can get it this. Go do it. Send us a change order. We'll pay for it, because we want to keep the home on track. And we just, for every one of these builds that we do, for everything we do, it's not unlike the military, because the two guys in charge here are retired military. We do a after action review on every one of our events, every one of our builds, anything we do. And we just did one yesterday, and the number of things that we actually laid out money for, because our corporate partners couldn't do it because of supply chain issues, was actually fairly expensive. It was to the tune of about $50K that wasn't forecast for us, that we'd normally be getting that free of charge from our corporate partners. So there's opportunities out there.
Wow, and you know, speaking of opportunities, Leanne Slattery, who is with ATAS, they make metal roofing and walls. They do some amazing work, but she also is very involved with CSI, Construction Specification Institute. So for everybody out there, if you check in the chat, Leanne is talking about, you can get involved with other organizations too. So she was involved with CSI, and they went in and they helped with cleanup, delivering water to workers, helping set up lunches, and helping afterwards too. And they were involved with a Home for Our Troops job in Pennsylvania. I'm just looking for those notes. And so Leanne can't come on right now, but I just wanted, the Home for Our Troops built in Eastern PA many years ago. It was a wonderful experience. It would be a great project for National Women in Roofing, which we're fond of here, councils to get involved with if a build is happening in their area. So there's a lot of different ways. Obviously fundraisers is the biggest one. And you can see the passion of the roofing industry when good causes.
Our longest running corporate partner is actually Texas Roadhouse. They have been with us since 2004. They have done, until COVID hit, for a couple of years there, they were doing motorcycle rallies at about 13 locations. I think the one up in Nashua, New Hampshire is the one that's been going the longest. It was going for about 13 years, but the pandemic kind of put the squeeze on that for a couple of years, but they're going to start doing that again. But that would generate a lot of funding for us. But even bigger than that with Roadhouse is awareness. So by put a sticker up in the window of every Texas Roadhouse that says we're a proud supporter of Homes for Our Troops, and people look at that and it gets people's attention. And a lot of times they'll sit there and write down that website or take a picture of it with their phone and then go back home and check things out. So awareness is a huge thing, because since inception, almost 90 cents of every dollar has gone to our program. So we don't spend a lot on advertising. You won't see a lot of that out there unless somebody is good enough to give it to us. So awareness is a big deal. And then also with Texas Roadhouse, their president and CEO, Jerry Morgan, and before him, Ken Taylor, both members of our national board. And Jerry was just up here for a veterans conference a couple weeks ago. And if we're building in an area that has a Texas Roadhouse, and they're everywhere, he's got well over 500 restaurants out there across the country. If we're building an area, they will always provide the food for our volunteer days that Elizabeth was describing, on the landscaping days where you have the community come out, get dirty, and actually get some sweat equity in what's going on, and laying down a lot of sod and planting, whether it be trees and plants and doing mulch or rock or whatever the local landscaping guidelines call for. We always have a meal with that. We have a meal at the kickoff, which is around the slab pouring time, and we bring the community out for that big patriotic event, lots of flags waving, bring the veteran in an escort with the fire department, the police department, Patriot Guard riders, and have a few folks talk. And the real mission of that kickoff is to introduce the veteran to the community that they chose to live in, but more importantly, introduce that community to the veteran. Again, let them know who we are, what we're doing, very importantly, who we're doing it for, and let them know that that veteran has to live there. And then on the key ceremony is the last one. It's a lot like the kickoff. It's done at the home site. Another escort in, get the veteran out, do a few words from different folks, go around to the front, run up a U.S. flag up the flagpole. We have a flagpole in front of every one of our homes. Since I've been in the organization, a little over 5 years now, we've had one HOA that didn't allow flagpoles. So we did not buy land in that HOA because we're going to run up a U.S. flag, and then we're going to cut a yellow ribbon in front, let them go in the house. And then everybody that came out to the event that day gets to go into the house, and we'll give little tours so that all those special adaptations that Elizabeth talked about earlier that have been designed into the home, a lot of them, if you just walked into a home, you really would not pick up on. I'm telling you, other than it being wide open and it just looking really spacious, you wouldn't pick up on probably 90% of the adaptations that are in there until somebody points them out and explains them to you. They're just really subtle, but they mean an awful, awful lot to these veterans to, restore that, some of that freedom and independence that they sacrificed for all of us.
Wow. That's amazing. I think if everybody can look at the map, and because we had a question on here, Alice Reynolds was like, what can we do afterwards, after the home is built? And it sounds like community is the answer right here.
It is. It really does take a community. Now, before, we're real big on paying it forward. So when we bring veterans and their families into our family, into the H5 family, we tell them paying it forward is a big thing to us. So we start that early on. Before moving into our homes, only about 17% of our veterans are able to get out and volunteer in their local community. After moving into our homes, that goes up to 75%. So from less than a fifth of them to almost 3/4 of them will get out and volunteer in the community. So the communities are going to get people that are active in their community when these veterans and their families move in. The house itself, single story, 4-bedroom, 2-bath, it's about 2,800 square feet. Now, a lot of people go, wow, that seems like a really big home. And it does. But again, back to the age of these troops being pretty young when they were blown up, we kind of settled on the 4-bedroom, 2-bath thing as being about the right size to either start or grow a family. And these guys are getting married before the homes. About 58% of them are married. After getting the homes, that goes up to 78%. And since 2010, we've had 245 babies born to families in our homes. So they're definitely getting on with their lives.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to ask if Elizabeth and Roger, if you both don't mind, if you could come back on screen. I want you to share what you're talking about in the chat, what Roger just found out, Elizabeth, what you're going to recommend, because I can't say it nearly as well. So Roger, if you want to start with what you put in the chat.
Well, I've got a few friends that own some lumber companies up here in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains, where there's a lot of lumber. And a colleague of mine from North Georgia, she's actually a dentist, and her family owns a lumber company, and she's been very supportive of my best friend, college roommate, Major Kevin Jenneret. He got killed in Afghanistan by an IED back in June 4, 2009. So I got a request into her, and we'll see what we can make happen, Tom. And if we can move that lumber over your direction, we'll make it happen.
Oh, you're Tom.
That is tremendous. Can't thank you enough for doing that, and condolences on your buddy there. And folks listening in, that is not unusual for a veteran to be able to recite verbatim date, year, time almost of losing friends like that. And a lot of them in uniform have those. Troops that we support have all lost friends and buddies like that. So Roger, again, condolences.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Here to support. Thanks. I'm going to come off. I don't want the attention, Heidi.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Elizabeth, you had you had 2 comments, because I love both of them. One about the build and one about the spouses.
Sure. So, and the general touched on it briefly about how the rate of marriage goes up, the babies being born. But one of the really cool things about Homes for Our Troops in these homes is once the veteran gets into the home, the veteran's able to do so much more on their own. And their spouse, who has been their primary caregiver to this point, now has the opportunity to go back to school, finish her degree, or get another degree, or go back into the workforce. And so it is the statistics that they have on the success rate of these spouses is incredible. So that was the first comment. And, the second comment is, lumber, I need to get connected with Roger, because that is my challenge right now in the home building industry in Northeast Florida. And so one of the things we've shifted to for the other builders on the line today is looking at conventional framing instead of stick build. And that's because of the delays that we're having with trusses. It's 4 to 5 months. And that is very easy to do on a single family home. And I know Homes for Our Troops works with various prototypes. And so having their designers take a look at that and say, you could probably shave 2 months off your build time going conventional frame for probably about 2% additional cost. So it's well worth it. And, just an idea for everyone out there. I also dropped in the Gaf Rebate link so that other roofers, if you're putting a roof on for a veteran, $250 check goes to the veteran from GAF once you provide proof that you put a GAF roof on. So just some great opportunities to work with veterans, even outside the Homes for Our Troops projects as well.
Yeah,
And
Heidi, the thing that Elizabeth brought up there, especially with spouses and caregivers, is tremendously important, because we always say we build this home for the veteran. because they're the ones that have the injuries, and they're the ones that it's going to restore that freedom and independence back to, so that they can do things for themselves. But as Elizabeth described it so wonderfully, it really frees up the rest of the family, because they're the ones that are having to assist these veterans in some of those daily tasks that all of us that have all of our parts take for granted every single day. They're the ones that are having to help them get dressed in the morning, get in and out of the shower, get into the bathroom, get something to eat, to drink, moving around. The list goes on and on. I come back to one of our spouses that we built for. They got their home in January of 20 down in Orlando, just outside of Orlando. And she told me at the kickoff what she was really looking forward to was being able to go outside the home and not worry, because she kept working and her veteran husband was the stay-at-home full-time dad. And she told me that every time she walked out the door in the morning for work, her worry mechanism kicked in, and it didn't stop until she got home. That multiple times during the day, she was always thinking about, and would call home, just making sure everything was okay, because they were in a place. He was one of our, what I call our hoppers. So he lost his right leg. It was hip disarticulation. So he's amputated all the way up to the hip. And those guys are either nobody likes that prosthetic that it comes with, because it's so onerous. It's like a double weight belt and thing. Nobody likes to wear it. So normally you'll either see him on crutches or in a wheelchair all the time. And he was one of our guys that stayed on crutches. He's got incredible balance as a result of doing that. And he hops everywhere, but he's had some falls and injured himself as well. And she was always worried about that happening. They had a 2-story place they lived in. So he would go up and down the stairs, hopping as he went, and gave him the home. And about a month later, I talked to her and I said, "So how's everything going?" And she said, "Do you remember me telling you about the worry mechanism?" And I said, "Yep, vividly." And she said, "It's not there anymore." She said, I go out in the morning to go to work and I don't worry about anything, because he can completely take care of himself at home. And now I don't worry about him taking care of the kids either. He does just fine with it. So it's really amazing. And while the employment rate of our veterans after moving in home basically doubles, employment rate of the spouses and caregivers almost quadruples once they move into the home. And then on getting a degree, only about 14% of the spouses and caregivers before moving into the home either had a degree or were pursuing a degree or trade certification. After moving in the home, that goes up to 80%. So it's exactly the point that Elizabeth is making. The impact it has on the entire family, but particularly on that spouse and caregiver, really frees them up to go do the things that they would have done in a normal life. They would have done those things. And because of that veteran spouse and family, they all served, they all sacrificed. But now this home, again, enables that veteran, restores that freedom and independence, and just gives the rest of the family so much more time and things to do. And they kind of get back to normal.
Changing lives. That's the bottom line. I can't thank you enough. I am choked up, and this has been absolutely an amazing Coffee Conversations. Thank you, General, so much for everything you do for everyone and for sharing the stories. Elizabeth, Roger, everybody who's been on here today, thank you so much. We have had some incredible comments that we'll get back over to you, so that your team, if there's questions or follow-ups, but there's a lot of questions about how can we donate, where can we donate, and that is in the chat. Karen's put that in there, and Megan has. We have a bunch of people all helping to get information out there. We will also have all this information at the top of the ABC Supply directory, so you'll be able to go into ABC Supply on Roofer's Coffee Shop in the directory, plus it's on their website. Plus, let me just share this real quick. We have on the website, right here. And so however you get involved, however you find it, this has been powerful, and everyone, all the comments are just about the power of this conversation. So thank you. Thank you so much for being here today. We so appreciate your time.
Heidi, thanks for having us. Thanks for the opportunity. Both of you, thanks to ABC Supply for the opportunity as well. And great to see Elizabeth. Nice to meet Roger. Look forward to continuing to work with Elizabeth. Look forward to start working with Roger, see if we can get some things done. And thanks to all your listeners for learning a little bit more about Homes for Our Troops.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And you'll see all the things that came through here. This is part of Roofer's Coffee Shop, Caught Doing Good. And wow, what a Caught Doing Good. Thank you so much to ABC Supply for sponsoring this, for really being a leader in this area, and for all the information. Again, thank you all for being here. Please join us 2 weeks from now when we are going to have Mandy McIntyre, who's been on this show today and has a couple comments, and Christy Holbrook, and they're going to be talking about mental health in construction. And so just get ready, everybody. We're going to do it again. This has been so emotional and so amazing. And we'll be back in 2 weeks to talk about another very, very important topic on Coffee Conversations. Have a great day. Thank you all for being here.